Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The town meeting for Monday, October 20th, 2014 will now come to order. I'm going to ask you all once again to please silence your cell phones. I'd like to thank you all for coming. It's just 7:30 and we have a quorum already, so that's excellent. We have several non-voters that have asked to be admitted into town meeting. Without objection, I'll allow them to enter the hall. Mark Tetrell, the Chief of the Fire Department, will be seated with the firefighters. Bill LaForm, the Lynnfield Weekly News. Bob Curtin, Assistant to Administration, Town Hall. Katie Terry, who lives on Fletcher Road, Lynnfield, who's seated in the box to the left. Charlie Richter, Town Engineer, who's in the box. Nancy Ryan, the librarian, who's, I believe, seated with the Board of Library Trustees. Jim Boudreau from Park Street in Norwell. Jane Tremblay, the Superintendent of Schools, who's seated with the School Committee. Linda Nakara, the Senior Center Director, who's seated with the Council on Aging. And Matthew Nichols, who lives in Old Colony Drive in Wakefield, Mass. In addition, Maureen Doherty from the Villager. Pat Kelly from Crichton Street in Reading. She's a library employee. Andrew Lafferty, who's the new director of the DPW. Andrew Lyons, Firefighters Union. Julie McCarthy, the town accountant. And Melissa Adams from New Meadow Road in Lynnfield. If there are no objections, they may be admitted. Unless otherwise noted, they should be seated to my left. In addition, Town Administrator Bill Gustus is in the hall, seated with the Board of Selectmen, Town Council Tom Mullen, Town Clerk Trudy Reed, who's seated on stage with the moderator to my right. That's Trudy. I'm Arthur. The board, yeah, she's not here. I'd like to ask everyone to rise and observe a moment of silence first while you're getting up. Betty Hayter passed away this week. Served the town for over 20 years as a member of the Council on Aging, most recently as a chairman, had been a volunteer here for a number of years. She's well known in town, was in every veterans event, wearing her wage uniform. She was a member of the Waves during World War II. She was a 17-year employee of the town and a very big activist here in the community, made this town a much better place because she was here. And if you would just observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Please remain standing and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We had a new feature at town meeting in April. We thought it worked very well. It was the town clerk's idea to use voting cards. Again, you've been issued those cards. When we vote tonight, if it's not a voice vote, and most of the voice votes tonight will probably not be a voice vote, if you raise your cards, it would help us count. We have tellers who will be counting the cards. When you leave town meeting, if you put them in the box by the doors, that would be great. I have the warrant advising the town meeting to the Constable of Town Lynnfield and the County of Essex. Greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs to meet in the middle school auditorium and gymnasium if necessary on Monday, October 20th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. Then we are to act on the following articles. I'll waive the reading of the, without objection, I'll waive the reading of the warrant service, but I hold the, I have the service, it's been served. Very briefly, I know there's a lot of return attendees here, and I appreciate that, and there are a few new people, so the format is pretty simple. It's a very open democracy here. Please wait for the microphone before you speak. If you'd like to be heard, you can speak on the articles. Please put your hand up when you're recognized by the moderator. Give your name and address prior to speaking, and you should know that if there's a motion on the floor, anyone on the floor can amend the motion by changing the wording or amending the dollar amount. And if you have a long amendment or something that needs to be carefully crafted, please submit a written copy of that to the stage so that we can get it. You can do that in one of two ways, either by handing us a hard-written copy, or if you have an iPad with email capabilities, you can email it to the Lynnfield, the TM is in Lynnfield Town Meeting at gmail.com. Ms. Reed will receive it up here on stage and will allow us to have a hard copy to work from. Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to rise to a point of personal preference.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's town meeting. Before we move forward with the warrant articles, we need to recognize our town administrator, Bill Gusmus. Bill is retiring on January 1st, 2015, after 12 years, and this will be his last town meeting. I'd like to give you a short list of some of the more significant items that Bill had helped to manage us through the years, and they're not necessarily in any particular order. First was the completion of the school building project, which included the new middle school, major renovations to our high school and both elementary schools, the purchase of the center golf course, the rebuilding of the senior center, the Market Street project, and negotiating the terms and conditions with the developer. He had the financial foresight to build our reserves. He renegotiated all our union contracts, and he navigated us through what was called the Great Recession, keeping our town operating in the black, while many other towns did not. He negotiated significant reductions in our health care costs, saving the towns hundreds of thousands of dollars. He helped negotiate the much-needed and ongoing Field and Parks project, and more recently, he was very instrumental in the purchase of the Center Farm property. Bill has done an exceptional job managing our town for the past 12 years, and he has certainly left us in a much better condition than when he arrived. Please join me in saying thank you, Bill, for your years of service and best wishes in your retirement. Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that if necessary, this town meeting be adjourned to Thursday, October 23rd, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. in the middle school, auditorium, gymnasium, and cafeteria if needed, should the business of these meetings not be completed.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that if necessary, this town meeting be adjourned to Thursday, October 23rd, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. in the middle school auditorium, gymnasium, and cafeteria if need be, should the business of the meetings not be completed. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Article 1, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or appropriate by transfer from available funds sums of money to pay overdue bills of a prior fiscal year or what action will take thereon. Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate $1,902.83 to pay the overdue bills from a prior fiscal year as listed on the handout entitled Articles 1 and 2, October 20th, 2014 Special Town Meeting.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to raise and appropriate $1,902.83. I'm sorry, I'll say that again, $1,902.83 to pay the overdue bills from a prior fiscal year as listed on the handout entitled Articles 1 and 2, October 20th, 2014 Special Town Meeting, which was available for pickup as you came into the town meeting. Is there any discussion on this article? Hearing none, move to a vote. All those let me just preface this by saying this requires a 9/10 vote. If it is unanimous, I can move on. If it's not unanimous, with one dissenting vote, we have to do a hand count. So having said that, I will move to a vote. All those in favor of Article 1 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The article carries. Please record that as unanimous. see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds sums of money to supplement certain accounts in the current 2015 fiscal year, various purposes, or what action will take thereon. Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $90,478.67, appropriate the sum of $10,000 from free cash, general fund, appropriate $95,000 from free cash, golf enterprise fund, and transfer $38,547.94 from the existing fiscal year 2015 appropriation accounts, the sums listed in the handout entitled Articles 1 and 2, October 20th, 2014 Special Town Meeting, to the accounts listed in said handout in order to balance the fiscal year 2015 budget.
It's been moved and seconded to raise and appropriate the sum of $90,478.67, appropriate the sum of $10,000 from free cash general fund, appropriate $95,000 from free cash golf enterprise fund, and transfer $38,547.94 from the existing fiscal year 2015 appropriation accounts, the sums listed in the handout entitled Articles 1 and 2, October 20th, 2014 Special Town Meeting, to the accounts listed in said handout in order to balance the fiscal year 15 budget. Recommendations from the Board of Selectmen or comments?
The Board of Selectmen recommends this article.
Finance Committee?
We don't have a microphone, I guess. We recommend this article unanimously.
The Finance Committee has recommended the article unanimously for the benefit of the voters. Any questions or debate on the subject? Up in the back, sir. Mr. Curtin. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Could someone please help us
Please
understand?
identify yourself.
Dave Miller, Cortland Lane.
Thank you.
The first article, town administrative salary account, $25,000 to that. Could you please explain what that is for and the purposes? Thank you.
Mr. Custis.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The transfer into the town administrator's salary account is to cover the fact that we're going to have a transition between the current town administrator and a new town administrator who will begin sometime in January. We do not believe that there will be a significant, if any, break in service time. Whenever an employee retires, there's a certain period of time sometimes where there is a slight overlap, and then employees are entitled to receive their accrued leave that they have accrued over the course of the fiscal year, and this includes just their vacation time mainly. And between overlap and not knowing exactly where the salary, it's believed that that line item, which would be covering two individuals plus the payout of the accrued benefits owed to the retiring town administrator, this extra money is required to balance the fiscal year in the black.
Any further questions or debate? Mrs. Campbell. Right down front, Mr. Curtin.
Tricia Campbell, Patrice Lane. Could you explain under the transfer to, that was just questioned, the $67,000 of the long-term interest on the field project and the golf capital design and site work? Because I noticed money's coming out of free cash to pay for some of this.
The money from the field, for the debt service, the field project, if you recall, the field project was approved after the budget was approved, and we weren't sure what the debt service was going to be in the current fiscal year. We borrowed the money, and we knew all along that we were going to have to address this issue in the fall town meeting, and we knew that there would be sufficient new growth to address it in the fall. We decided not to guess on what that number would be. We decided to wait until we knew exactly what that number would be. So that 67,928 is a raise and appropriate article coming out of additional new growth that we said that we just didn't appropriate in the spring, knowing that we would have to address this issue. With respect to the golf capital design and site work, as you know, the King Rail Golf Course is scheduled to reopening, or we hope that we will get it reopened again and generating revenue sometime before the end of this fiscal year. We have an appropriation, actually we don't have an appropriation yet, but there is an understanding that there is a set aside of a portion of the life sale proceeds will be dedicated towards building a clubhouse at that site. That money is not likely to be available until at least the end of this fiscal year. Half of it was spent on the Fields project, and half of it was going to go towards building the new clubhouse at King Rail. But we have a need, and that is roughly $900,000. The amenities building at the high school cost over $1 million. The building out at King Rail will be slightly smaller than that facility, and we believe that the money available from the proceeds of the life sale would be sufficient to do that construction. However, we're not going to be building that building until at least next summer and into the fall. We're hopeful of getting the golf course open in the spring. This means that we need to do the design for the building, we need to do the site plan for the parking areas in the road, we need to bring it through permitting, we have to go to the appropriate town planning agencies to get approval of the site plan, we have to go to the Conservation Commission to make sure that we're away from wetland areas, and we actually have to have the design and the rough construction complete in order to open that facility, hopefully by May 1st. And so that is going to cost roughly $95,000. We're asking for that money to be appropriated out of the retained earnings of the golf enterprise. None of this money is coming from the taxpayer. It's coming out of the retained earnings or the quote-unquote free cash in the golf enterprise fund itself. I hope that explains it.
Any further questions? Right behind you, Bob, in the pink sweatshirt, right there.
Aaron Jevin, 31 Parsons Avenue. Did you say $900,000 for a clubhouse?
For a pro shop, a maintenance facility, it's one building, but it's a two-level building, one for place for golfers. Yes. It's going to... That's the price.
Up in the back, right, straight up row.
Good evening, my name is Jim Fox from Fox Lane. The figures on here add up to around 227 grand. I think Mr. Terranova mentioned 90,000 from someplace and 10,000 from someplace else. Where's the rest of the dough coming from? And by the way, I've been told by the pro up the street that this is going to be a state-of-the-art place because this golf course is going to be done right, which I congratulate whoever is involved in that.
Mr. Gussis?
Well, if you look at the appropriation, it's transfer to and transfer from, which means that we're taking money from one source to fund a need in another. You wouldn't take that right-hand column and add them all together. Those two columns actually balance.
missed the part in the bottom. I apologize.
Thank you.
I didn't, when you said to and from, I said that I'm missing something.
No problem.
Any further questions? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Article 2 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer from receipts reserved for appropriation a sum of money to be expended under the discretion of various town boards, committees, or officers, or what action will take thereon. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate by transfer the sum of $12,416.11 from receipts reserved for appropriation insurance recoveries to make repairs to the Department of Public Works garage and to repair, replace Department of Public Works equipment, and appropriate by transfer the sum of $24,204.87 from receipts reserved for appropriation insurance recoveries to make repairs to and the repair or to replace equipment and or vehicles at King Rail Golf Course.
Second that motion?
It's been moved and seconded to appropriate by transfer the sum of $12,416.11 from receipts reserved for appropriation insurance recoveries to make repairs to the Department of Public Works garage and repair or replace Department of Public Works equipment and appropriate by transfer in the sum of $24,204.87 from receipts reserved for appropriation insurance recoveries to make repairs to and repair or to replace equipment and or vehicles at the King Rail Golf Course. Discussion. Is there a comment by the Board of Selectmen?
The Selectmen recommend Article 3.
Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends Article 3.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Article 3 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. We're on to Article 4. To see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 20, to establish an other post-employment benefits liability trust fund and to raise and appropriate a sum of money to be deposited therein or what action will take thereon. Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund.
Second that motion?
It's been moved and seconded to vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to the other post-employment benefits liability trust fund. A recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommend Article 4.
Finance Committee?
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee does not recommend Article 4. The vote was not unanimous, but the conversation and discussion is related to setting aside funds directly in a reserve account that is labeled for other post-employment benefits, and the potential for that account in the future to be seized by the government should a broader program be put in place to fund and or somehow manage these liabilities. So philosophically, the Finance Committee is very much in favor of setting funds aside, but feels these funds should be set aside in a separate, one of our existing separate reserve funds.
Any further discussion? Mr. Miller?
Could you please tell us what our total OPEB liability is?
Mr. Augustus?
$52 million as of the last evaluation. Yes. If I may,
Mr. Gustus?
we appropriated $100,000 into and established an OPEB fund at the town meeting last fall, and we put in $100,000 into that fund. And while I generally agree with the Finance Committee's position that there is some risk at some point in the future, if we go to a single-payer system for all health insurance benefits for everybody, that an OPEB fund might become obsolete, and the government, the federal government, or whatever government decides to take over health insurance 100% will go after whatever's been set aside for those benefits of current and future retirees. That being said, in the interim period of time, with a $52 million liability and a $100,000 commitment at this point, it's a token of what we we really should be doing. If this does not end up being taken over by the federal government, I would suggest that the rating agencies do look at whether you've recognized the fact that you have this liability and have done something to fund it. Now, I would agree that it's a drop in the bucket compared to the liability. I would expect that when we get our next actuarial evaluation, the number may stabilize or even come down somewhat. Because since the last evaluation was done, we have changed health insurance. We have reduced our overall premium by almost $1.5 million. And that will have some impact on our out-year liabilities for sure. But at this point, we're not even able to get into the state fund to adequately invest the proceeds that we have. In fact, the smallest contribution you can make to the state OPEB fund is $250,000. The Board of Selectmen has taken the position that over a couple of year period, it makes some sense to get us to at least that minimal funding level in order to be able to say to our rating agencies, yes, we recognize the issue, yes, we've done something to fund it, because at some point, our bond rating agencies are going to start to pick and choose between municipalities who have made some effort to at least recognize this liability and do something to try to reduce it, and they're going to differentiate between those communities that do and those that don't. And it's possible that at some time in the future it will go towards how the rating agencies believe you are managing the finances of the community. Finance Committee is correct. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference to our financial balance sheets or our financial health, but it does go towards the rating agency's view of our financial management practices and recognizing our liabilities, which is why the selectmen have asked that another $100,000 be put in that fund.
Further discussion on the article? Mr. LaCourse.
Harry LaCourse, 28 Partridge Lane. Can I assume that the $100,000, if it was put in town reserves, rather than this particular fund, would have just as much impact with the rating agency as transferring it to another fund? Mr. Gustus, perhaps, with your permission, Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Gustus.
No, I don't think it would have exactly the same impact. I think on the one hand, if it were added to just our regular reserve funds, it would show added flexibility to address, changing financial needs over time. Once money goes into an OPEB trust fund, it must be used for that purpose. It's pretty much an irrevocable appropriation into that fund. But you would not get the realization of the recognition that you have begun to address that issue. The whole point of the OPEB trust fund is to make that money set aside specifically for that purpose by putting it into another reserve fund, which can be used for any lawful purpose. would obviously not have the same impact on financial rating agencies relative to whether you are meeting all of the financial management criteria that they believe you should be meeting.
Also be it, Mr. Gustus, but I still feel we would have more control and utility of those funds, and I support the position of the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Further questions, Mrs. Campbell?
So seldom do we have this kind of disagreement, but it's a good thing. Was it unanimous, Jack, did you say, Mr. Dalsted?
No, it was 6-3.
6-3. Thank you. It's of great concern to me, and it has been for some time, that we owe $52 million. This is actually a pension fund, is it not?
I mean, it's...
OPEB.
OPEB is other post-employment benefits, and basically what it is it's the liability that the town has for health insurance benefits for retirees. It's not retirement benefits per se.
Okay. Thank you. That helps to clarify a little bit.
Any further discussion on the article? Up in the back row with his hand up.
Bruce Siegel from Mills Way. I just want to clarify and support what Mr. Augustus said. This was all implemented by GASB 45, which is the General Accounting Standards Board, and they specifically said if you're going to put money away, it has to be in a trust fund. You can't just put it away in a separate reserve account. It has to be in a trust fund, irrevocable trust fund, and the bond rating does get a favorable rating when you do that. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the article?
Yeah, the back.
Up in the back.
Excuse me, Jim Fox, Fox Lane. The 52 million is an unfunded liability on the pension plan, correct?
No, it's an unfunded liability for health benefits for retirees, which is different from the pension fund. The pension fund, we have an unfunded liability there as well. It's roughly $13 million. But at least in the pension situation, there is a funding plan in place. In addition to paying the current benefits for our retirees, we also pay a sum of money each year towards whittling down that unfunded liability. And that by the year 3037, I think, in the case of Essex Regional, our unfunded liability would be met. And at that point, maybe and hopefully the retirement appropriation in the budget will go away because the whole thing will be fully funded and able to fund itself, except for new people that are added to the system over time. That's not the case with our other post-employment benefits, most notably health insurance. And this actuarial liability is calculated every 2 years on behalf of the community by an outside actuary. And it is based upon the expected life of all of the participants in our current health insurance. Not only our current retirees, but those who are vested in our retirement system thus far and are likely to live to be 80 or 90 years old. And it's factored in that the town pays a percentage of the health insurance costs for those retirees. Mainly, the retirees are on a Medicare supplement plan, so it's just that premium, the percentage premium that the town pays on account of those plans. But there are so many retirees and potential future retirees that work for the town, and people are living so much longer than they ever did before, and the cost of health insurance going up as it is, that liability right now is roughly $52 million. There is not now any mandated funding plan for this obligation. At this point, as has been suggested here, the Government Accounting Standards Board, GASB, has decided that we have to show this obligation on our balance sheets, although there is no requirement that this obligation be funded at this time. all we have to do is tell everybody, we fund this on an as-we-go basis, and every year we do. We appropriate enough money to fund the health benefit, the town portion of our retirees' health benefits. But that annual appropriation goes up, and this is an attempt to try to get in front of that whole thing. However, it would be staggering if to meet a funding plan in this area. I mean, we look at the annual, the suggested contribution to these benefits, and we're at least $3 to $3.5 million short each and every year to get to a reasonable funding plan within a 40-year period of time. But where do we find $3.5 million of new spending in a budget of roughly 42, 43, where every nickel is already accounted for? It's not possible for us to do that. It wouldn't be fair to raise taxes by an additional 10+% just to fund this one thing. So the strategy we have taken is to recognize the liability on our balance sheets, recognize that we have some obligation to fund it, we have established a trust, and we have put a modest amount in it last year. We're proposing to do it again this year, and although I will not be here, I would recommend you put at least another $50,000 into it next year, just so the minimum amount of $250,000 can be sent off to the state retirement system to invest it in a prudent fashion. Right now we have our local trust, but our ability to invest in equity securities and what have you is not there. And we're not professional money managers, and the size of our fund is so small that the fees to find somebody to manage it for us would be ridiculous. So to get to that minimum level of appropriation, we've been trying to build it into the levy over the last 2 years so that we can get to that minimal level. At that point, town meeting will have to make a decision as to whether it wants to continue to fund it or say, okay, we've set up our trust, that's the best we can do. But that's a conversation for another day.
Thank you so much for the explanation, because I don't know if anybody else in this room had any idea what was going on either. I know I didn't. I'm happy to hear the pension's in a lot better shape. And I unfortunately, having worked in the public sector myself, know a lot of the ins and outs and bad things that can happen. So, but I was blown away with 52 million. I almost fell off the chair. But I can understand better now, and it's probably not a bad thing to throw that extra 100K in there. If they do take it, if the feds take it over, who cares? Let them have the money. We won't have to pay anymore.
Is there any further discussion on Article 4? Mr. Siegel again?
I'd like to move the question.
It's been moved and seconded to proceed to a vote. We'll vote first on whether we'll proceed to a vote or not. So all those in favor of voting on Article 4 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We'll move to a vote on Article 4. The motion is to the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to other post-employment benefits liability trust fund. All those in favor of Article 4 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. Moving on to Article 5. Let me set the article up, Mr. Walsh, first. I'd be happy to recognize you. Hang on. To see if the town will vote to petition the legislature for the purpose of reverting from the town administrative form of government back to the executive assistant form of government. Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town petition the legislature to enact legislation as printed in the warrant. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town... Mr. Moderator, I move that the town petition the legislature to enact legislation as printed in the warrant to amend the town charter.
Moved and seconded to vote to petition the legislature for the purpose of reverting from the town administrative form of government to the executive assistant form of government. Further discussion, Mr. Walsh.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Walsh. I first came to town meeting about 12 years old as a Boy Scout, and the town meeting passed a bylaw to require town flag. In the intervening time period, I've studied government at Suffolk University. In the intervening time period, I've studied government at Suffolk University. I've gone on to Suffolk Law School and got my law degree, as well as a master's in liberal law technology, as well as a for State Representative Mark Falzone in the state.
Mike, please slow down a little bit because they can't hear you and it's coming so fast. Just take your time, make your presentation.
Is that better?
Turn it on.
That better? Yep. That's loud. Okay. This article is a charter change. If the town meeting votes for it, the legislature would take up an article under the Home Rule Amendment to consider amending our town charter. There are two ways to amend a town charter. This is the simpler of the two versions. This would effectively, the first half will repeal a change in which we enacted the town administrator form of government. At the time it was Mr. Maney, now we have our very capable Mr. Augustus. This change started a slow, gradual shifting of power among our town government. Our town boards of selectmen over the years have found it easier and easier to give decision-making power to our paid professionals to make the best decisions for us. And that's a perfectly natural drifting and mooring. But the straw that broke the camel's back was approximately a year ago. Our Board of Selectmen passed a code of conduct. Unfortunately, in the code of conduct, it now says that our selectmen cannot receive complaints from us. All complaints have to go directly into town hall. Literally, our representatives, unfortunately, under this code of conduct, cannot listen to us anymore. If you remember Jimmy Stewart in the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, one of the things he says in the big filibuster scene is he says that a little common sense and a little looking out for the other guy goes a very long way. We hear it in the private sector all the time. We hear, it's not my job, it's above my pay grade, it's outside my department, we'll have to talk to somebody else. But this should be the very last thing that we ever want to hear from our government or from our elected officials. This charter change is designed to rebalance the power. It's no slight to Mr. Augustus or to Mr. Maney. They've done both very capable jobs for us. But it's designed to restore our 1971 charter that was studied very carefully by a charter commission after 18 months, as well as being voted by the ballot box in the full public area. When it was changed in '93, it didn't get that full public area. Effectively, I assert to you that there is nothing new in this charter change. It will take us back to the 1970 charter by restoring the executive assistant. It will break out the director of finance administration. It will also codify a couple of regular practices. We regularly have a budget summit in which department heads make their presentation. This will write that into the charter. Additionally, in the 1970s and 80s, and I believe into the early 1990s, department heads regularly made reports to our selectmen, out in public in the view of the press. It is a simple maxim of government that any time a decision is made by an appointed public official, it's not in the public eye, as opposed to a public board, which when it makes its decisions, we get to see how it works, and we get to hear everything on the record. This is designed to bring more of that transparency back to our town government. One of the arguments that's been advanced against this piece of legislation is that it presupposes the failure of Mr. Augustus' successor. And I appreciate that argument on a human level. You always hope for the best, but the second half of that aphorism goes, you hope for the best and you prepare for the worst. The same Constitution that you write for presidents like Washington and Lincoln also has to work for presidents like Grover Cleveland and Warren Harding and Richard Nixon. It's not that we expect bad or even want bad people, but we have to have our system working all the time. An executive assistant is admittedly a political employee, but it separates out the politics from the administration. More importantly, it also puts the selectmen back in the driver's seat for all of our public decisions as well as supervising all of our departments. It brings the department heads back to the table rather than working strictly through the administrator in this kind of hierarchical chain of command. You get the selectmen giving back and forth feedback on a regular basis. You see that I don't know if you got the handout. There's a copy of the 1970 graph that was enacted for the charter. This charter change will restore that graph. The other piece, professional management has grown as a field in the last 30 years. And that certainly has its place, but that place is alongside our elected officials, not making decisions for them. We very much appreciate all the work our public employees and our representatives do, but we expect them to govern. We expect them to make the hard choices, and that's what we ask them to do. That's what this charter change will structurally and permanently affect, to make sure that that happens. It will bring more transparency to us. The last provision is that this charter amendment contains an anti-delegation provision. This actually codifies the practice from the 1970s when David Rodham was on the board, as well as his predecessors. It is not so common now. It was actually not written in the 70 charter, but it effectively just codifies the practice as it was. You have to remember, the change for town administrator was effectively an experiment. It was done in my youth. Almost everyone in this room will still remember how it was before then. I'm not telling you that we're going back into the Stone Age. What I'm telling you is that we're going back to bedrock. We're going back to a charter that was thoroughly vetted by a charter commission that we knew worked perfectly for us for more than 25 years. The changes in 1993 were sold to us as being, one, a title change, and two, simply a codification of current practice. I appreciate that, but when freeing the bonds of government, we've sort of drifted into our current state. If you think that town government is working for you, then I urge you in the strongest sense to vote no on this article. If you have any complaints, or if you think that your government isn't responsive, or if you think that your elected officials aren't doing what you want them to do, this is going to bring a more responsive system of government to you, and I urge you to vote yes. This is effectively a take back our government piece of legislation. It is a reform. There are no two ways about it. We're going back to what works. We're going backwards. If you believe it works, please vote for it. Thank you very much.
Recommendations, Mr. Nelson, the Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommends indefinite postponement of Article 5, but if I may, Mr. Moderator, say a word.
You may.
Our code of conduct does not prevent anyone from making complaints or bring issues to the Board of Selectmen. What it does do, though, is ask us to use a little common sense and protocol to go and work through our town administrator, who by our charter is deemed to do the day-to-day operations of our town. The selectmen are in the driver's seat, believe me. We have authority, we have power. As a board, we are very powerful and very strong. As one individual going out and doing things on our own, that's not the way it should work, because it also sends mixed messages. We talked earlier about our bond rating. Standard & Poor's rating services raised its long-term rating of Lynnfield general obligation bonds to AA+ from AA. This rating reflects their assessment of the following factors regarding our town of Lynnfield. Lynnfield's economy is very strong. The town's budgetary flexibility is very strong, with available reserve levels significantly improving over the past 3 fiscal years. Lynnfield's debt and contingent liability profile is very strong. And the one I want to point out is the view is that the town's management conditions are strong with good management practices under the fiscal management assessment methodologies used by Standard & Poor's. Can I continue?
Hold on one second. What's your point of order, Mrs. Campbell?
It doesn't seem to be within the, I forget the terminology, these comments don't seem to be in the four corners. Thank you. It isn't in the four corners of the debate.
I think Mr. Walsh, in his initial discussion, introduced the subject of how the town is run, wants to change the way we manage the town. I think Mr. Nelson's commenting on how the town is managed and what professional experts have said in their review. I'm not sure how it's not within the four corners of the article. If Mr. Walsh's discussion was within the four corners, talking about changing the management structure, then Mr. Nelson's is talking about why we shouldn't change the management structure. I'll allow Mr. Nelson to continue.
All of this that I just mentioned is based on strong fiscal town management, which is made up of a strong town government, to include the town administrator, dedicated and efficient department heads, strong schools committee, strong finance committee, and boards of selectmen who have applied good, common sense, cost-effective measures. The basic common sense over the years have prevailed. I also want to include the residents and voters of this town who are dedicated parents and so effectively look out for our kids and the education of their future. Any other form of government, such as the passage of Article 5, would only serve to turn Lynnfield backwards. It would weaken our fiscal strength. It would weaken our public school district. It would weaken the morals of our employees. And it would prevent top qualified applicant pools from coming into this town based on this passage of Article 5. And it would bring undetermined personal gains and political agendas to those who are trying to run this town. And this will prove to be severely detrimental to Lynnfield over the next several years and will surely place us on a path of no return, which will require major monetary concessions to recover from if we do it all. So people will wonder, what have we done? So please, Lynnfield voters, we need to maintain one central point of day-to-day control as our charter lays out through the town administrator. We have evolved into 2014. We're not back in 1970 and 1960. It includes a current established Board of Selectmen who are the executive branch of the town, a town administrator who has a day-to-day operational authority. What we do not need is 3 or 4 different officials bringing conflicting agendas, which will only send mixed messages and derail any progress to move forward for the right reason. Lynnfield has everything in place to make this a smooth transition from one town administrator to another. And any other way would be total mayhem for this town. So I urge you to please vote no on Article 5. Thank you.
Mr. Dahlstedt from the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee unanimously voted not to recommend Article 5.
Mr. Barrett, School Committee.
The school committee voted unanimously not to recommend Article 5.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Campbell.
First of all, I would, as an educator, I am, and having long been a member, active member of town meeting, I think it's wonderful that the young people in our town are giving such thought to the structure and how we run the town. I objected strongly at the selectmen's meeting when one of the selectmen said it was insulting. It's not insulting. I think it's fabulous. I think it also points out that we desperately need a charter commission to review the charter. I was here in 1993. I don't remember our charter being changed. It certainly needs a review since it was written in 1971. And I think that business needs to be done. Perhaps we could start looking at that and thinking about how we run. I have the same feeling that Mr. Walsh does, that we have a town administrator now that is making too many decisions, and we have a weakened board of selectmen who are not taking what the original charter, the power that the original charter wanted to distribute among the selectmen. So, if people are feeling that we shouldn't pass this tonight, let it be the first step in the right direction of looking at the charter. And please don't make it like the master plan that I helped to get off the ground. The master plan was written, there was a lot of participation from the citizens, and it never came to town meeting. This is where the buck stops, right here. So if a charter commission is convened, make sure that the charter changes come to the people. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the article? Up the aisle on the left-hand side, white sweater.
Lisa Shannon, 3 Moran Road. I have a whole lot of questions, so I'll try to put them all out there. This is a political appointee. Who's appointed this person? What's the background of this person? Are they a Lynnfield resident?
Ms. Shannon, I'm sorry, who are you referring to?
The executive assistant position that we're talking about. I'm sorry.
The executive assistant is appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
So how do you make that appointment? How do you choose the background of that person to make them qualified to replace the town administrator?
All right, let's get one question at a time, then somebody on the Board of Selectmen wants to answer that question. Or the town administrator wants to answer some question.
Well, I will give you some sense of what I understand. What is being proposed here is to revert to the charter as it existed prior to 1993. But it goes even further than that. But that's not the question you asked me. If you look at the old charter, when it talks about the qualifications of the executive assistant.
Excuse me, Mr. Augustus, for 1 second. Ms. Shannon, is your question who appoints the current town administrator, or who appoints the executive assistant? Okay, thank you.
The qualifications of the executive assistant under the old charter is the executive assistant shall have executive and administrative qualifications and shall have education by training, experience, or scholastic achievement to perform the duties of the office. And that's all the old charter says about it. And in terms of the power to appoint town officers, it says that the following officers, each for a term of 2 years, the town council, an executive assistant, and a town accountant. So the selectmen would appoint the executive assistant.
I'm wondering, so the questions that came up on Article 4 that you were able to answer off the top of your head, would an executive assistant be able to answer those questions? Would an executive assistant be able to advise the Board of Selectmen on those questions? Where's the qualification? I guess I'm missing how this makes sense to replace a role like you have, Mr. Gustus, and what you've brought to the town, and the experience and the education and the knowledge with a position that I don't even understand what kind of background they're going to have, how they're going to be chosen.
I can tell you that I'm not sure whether an executive assistant would have that ability, but I can tell you an executive assistant would not have that authority. It's a law of unintended consequences as far as I'm concerned, because if you look at what is actually happening here, there's two things that are happening. One, the article asks to repeal two pieces of special legislation. The first of which is Chapter 127 of the Acts of 1993, which changed Section 9.33, which says, it said to replace it in its entirety with new language, which would allow the selectmen to appoint an individual as Director of Finance and Administrative Services and to any one of the other positions. But it gives the selectmen the power to appoint somebody to do the financial affairs of the town. If you repeal this special act, it goes back to the old charter. And the old charter, in that same section, says that the responsibility for the financial affairs of the town shall be performed by the town clerk. Now, I love the town clerk. But when I told her this evening that she may end up as the finance director, she was a bit appalled. But this is what happens when you look at certain things and you repeal certain things and you go here and you go there. I'm not arguing, I'm just answering your question.
I appreciate it, thank you. I'm voting against this, so thank you.
Any further discussion? Where are we at on that? Up behind the wall.
Jack Adelson, 9 Yorkshire Drive. Mrs. Shannon, I think partially asked my question, but I would like Mr. Gustis to give his opinion about this, this article, and also what would happen to the 8 or so candidates, I think, that are going to be selected to be finalists. If this were to pass, what would happen to those candidates? That's what I'd like. Thank you.
Mr. Gustis.
Well, as far as my opinion on the article itself, I think I said some of it. And basically, I think the premise that the town administrator has too much power is overblown. I can tell you that I have worked with any number of boards of selectmen. I think now, I don't know how many different iterations of the board, but I think in my time there were 10 selectmen that were elected during my 12 years here. And I can assure you that I understand the way the charter works. The policy directions of the selectmen are passed down to the town administrator, and he is to carry out the policy of the board. I did not last 12 years here as a town administrator by openly defying the Board of Selectmen or usurping their authority. I understood their authority, and it's written into the documents as they're written. I've heard from some who believe that we should have a town manager, which is the same as a town administrator except for the powers of appointment. I don't have the authority to appoint anybody under the charter. It's all done by the department heads, and certain department heads by the Board of Selectmen. That will change under another article that's coming up, but nevertheless, I never saw it as having too much authority. I would say that in general, this, the way this is written, there are all kinds of unintended consequences, and it has been told to you that this is just rolling back to the way things were back before 1993, when in fact it goes further than that, because after you repeal the 2 special acts, it goes and it takes away additional responsibilities that used to be in the hands of the executive assistant. So in effect, you're not just going back to the way things were, you are gutting this position even further, taking away the day-to-day responsibility for the administration of the personnel system as well as all of the financial affairs of the town. Now, I can tell you that if you expect the Board of Selectmen to be able to handle the day-to-day administrative and personnel functions of the town, it's not going to be possible. We have a 3-member Board of Selectmen who can't even talk to each other outside of a public meeting, let alone make snap decisions on a day-to-day basis. And I doubt seriously whether the selectmen are going to agree to hold a selectmen's meeting every day. And that's what I think it would take. Mr. Walsh brought up that the 1993 change was not done with a charter commission. Well, that's true. But at least it was done and had to be approved by an election of the voters after it was passed by the legislature. This article does not even require that. If this is passed by town meeting, it would go, I assume, to the legislature, and if approved, the voters of town would not have any say, and it would just automatically be approved. So I just think that it's a lot of changes being made without understanding how the impact of what is now is going to be changed by trying to not only go back to what was in effect before, but to make that position even weaker. Without having the ability to manage the department heads and leaving that to the Board of Selectmen, I can tell you that on a daily basis, the need to coordinate the activities of department heads is there. the, the town accountant, so needs to work with the police chief. And if there's a disagreement on something, I often have to get involved and see how we get that resolved. We had a meeting between the police and fire chief last week on something that needed to be resolved relatively quickly. And I can tell you, if these things have to go to an open public meeting, it's going to be very cumbersome. And finally, so often we hear that people want government run more like a business. Well, what corporation, what business does not have a chief executive officer? It's not run by a committee. You have a board of directors who directs the activities of the chief executive officer. What you're talking about here is what you're talking about is just putting certain essential decision-making processes into a diffuse group of people. And I don't think that that's the most effective way to run an organization.
Mr. Basile.
Thank you, David Basile, 15 Fernway. I have a question on the point of order. I understood Mr. Walsh made a motion and got a second. Mr. Nelson then made a recommendation or a motion for indefinite postponement?
Recommendation.
Thank you.
Mr. Faria.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Faria, 3 Mitchell Road. Over the past decades, I've had the pleasure of serving on numerous public boards and bodies, not only here in Lynnfield, where I now chair the planning board, but also in Reading, where I was a member of the Finance Committee. I was the town moderator for 8 years, and I also chaired the Charter Commission there for 2 years. And we successfully passed a charter at that time. All of the statements that Mr. Nelson and Mr. Gustus have stated are absolutely true. In Reading, we did have an executive assistant town form of government. That led to absolute havoc. There was more infighting among different political groups within the town, infighting within the boards, infighting within everybody you could possibly imagine, because no one was basically in charge. And everyone was seeking an advantage of one form or another. The best thing that we can do is do as was originally recommended by the proponent. One of the statements he said was, you need a full public hearing. This is not a full public hearing. It takes a long time to take a look at your charter, to study it, and to understand it. Now, studying and understanding are 2 different things. If you understand it, you have to understand the ramifications and the consequences of almost every single word that you put in that charter. As we get to the next couple of articles, you're going to see, and I'll point out if we get to discuss it, that the language is incorrect, and that you will have unintended consequences which can be readily pointed out. My recommendation would be to indefinitely postpone this, and to, if you want to study it, appoint a commission to study it, have it be a meeting or a body of town meeting under the jurisdiction of town meeting. Go forward, make sure you study it, make sure you understand it. Before you vote for this, you want to be sure that you understand the consequences of what you're doing. And right now, I don't think there's been a sufficient explanation for anyone to understand what's being voted upon. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the article? Up in the back. Up in the blue shirt up back, yep.
Lori Kelly, 21 Maplewood Road. Mr. Gustus, could you explain how this may affect PEC, the Public Employee Committee negotiations, and department negotiations with this change? Thank you.
Mr. Augustus?
Well, as I understand it, before there was a town administrator, there was an executive assistant. And under the prior charter, the executive assistant had the general day-to-day administration of the personnel system, which would also give the executive assistant the authority to at least negotiate on behalf of the Board of Selectmen on collective bargaining matters. Now, the PEC, which addresses health insurance issues, is a joint group that gets together and management discusses changes to the health insurance programs with them every 3 years or so. But every 3 years, we negotiate new contracts with each employee union. Under the proposed changes here, this article, this piece of special legislation would strip the executive assistant of even having the day-to-day general responsibility for collective bargaining, for personnel matters in general. And I believe that the change that is coming in Article 7 would vest those responsibilities directly on the Board of Selectmen to be overseen by a personnel board, and that whole construct was changed in the late 1990s. But nevertheless, I think it would dramatically impact the negotiations with the unions, and I'm not exactly sure who it would be, but it would probably have to be the Board of Selectmen directly.
Any further discussion? Mr. LaCourse?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Harry LaCourse, 28 Partridge Lane. With respect to the warrant article, and with also respect to efforts of Mr. Walsh and all the time he spent, I have a few thoughts about this article. I think I can add a little bit of historical perspective too, because about 10 to 12 years ago, I was a member of the Board of Selectmen. We looked at 55 candidates, and we hired Mr. Augustus by a vote of two votes for Mr. Augustus, of which I was one. So I'm familiar with the prior executive assistant, Mr. Roger Gary, Mr. Joe Maney, the former town administrator, and have a long history of involvement in town affairs. My feeling is that Mr. Augustus was appointed as a town administrator. He was not appointed as a town manager. He has no other rights or responsibilities other than those, to my knowledge, that are granted by this present administration with the Board of Selectmen. He reports to them directly. He was assigned some additional responsibilities at the time he was hired because of his strong background in union negotiations. He had a strong background in finance administration, and we did place him, as I recall, over the police department, fire department, DPW, to the best of my knowledge. My feeling is that he's also very adept in negotiation skills, and he'll be sorely missed. In my opinion, I think that going back to an executive assistant is a step going backwards. And that I feel that the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen should continue as the form of government. And I feel if people have a problem, that they can put things on the Selectmen's agenda, and those issues can be discussed with them or with Mr. Augustus. I've had that experience. So I feel an executive assistant is another level of bureaucracy. And to paraphrase the recent editorial article in one of the Lynnfield papers, I highly condone that article, favor that article. It was well written, and those are my feelings. I don't feel that we should put this article aside on indefinite postponement. I think, quite frankly, it's been talked about and studied enough now that I think we should be defeated. That's my position. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the article? Mr. Priestley.
Bob Priestley, 3 Wing Road. Move the question.
It's been moved and seconded to proceed to a vote. We'll take the motion to move the question up first. All those in favor of proceeding to a vote on Article 5 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We'll move on to a vote of Article 5. All those in favor of Article 5 to see if... Who's got a point of order?
Mike Feinberg, Alexandra Road. Point of order, sir. What is the vote required for passage on this question?
It's a majority vote on this question. This is a petition article, so for the understanding of people that are here, if we're actually making a charter change, it would require a 2/3 vote. This article is to petition the legislature to change the charter, which, because it's only a petition, only requires a majority vote. It's a simple majority is all it takes to pass this. So I'll try a voice vote, see where we go with this. We may go to the cards. So back to voting on Article 5 to see if the town will vote to petition the legislature for the purpose of reverting from the town administrative form of government. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. On to Article 6. To see if the town will vote to amend the bylaws by inserting a new section in Chapter 2 of the bylaws to read as follows. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It is a residency requirement. It appears in your, the handout that was given out prior to town meeting. Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Moderator, after consideration of the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen, I move to indefinitely postpone this article.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded to indefinitely postpone Article 6. All those in favor of indefinitely postponing signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're on to Article 7. To see if the town will vote to amend the bylaws for the purposes of reverting to the executive assistant form of government by voting to reinstate the consolidated personnel bylaw as it existed in 1983 by deleting the current Chapter 3, Part 2 and inserting in its place the following. It is a very extensive consolidated personal bylaw. It appears in the literature that you have. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'll waive the reading. Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town amend its bylaws by deleting Chapter 3, Section 2 of the bylaws and insert in its place a new Chapter 3, Section 2 as printed in the warrant to take effect January 1st, 2015.
For a second on the motion? It's moved and seconded that the town amend its bylaws by deleting Chapter 3, Section 2 of the bylaws and insert in its place a new Chapter 3, Section 2 as printed in the warrant to take effect January 1st, 2015. Mr. Walsh.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. I promise this will be the last time you hear from me this evening. This article is designed to reinstate the 1983 personnel bylaw as existed. Now, there are a bunch of holes in this. There are no two ways about this. The reason is because we wanted to make it easy to explain it to you and to say that all we're doing is reenacting the old personnel bylaw. Now, the reason I want to do that is because I want to restore the personnel board. Our charter requires a personnel board, but we currently do not have one. There were two series of small cliffs under which the personnel board died and it became defunct. It currently has no members. This would restore the teeth to the personnel board. The personnel board is a panel of 5 unpaid townspeople who are responsible for supervising all town employment matters except relating to the school employees. This board would take on responsibility for collective bargaining with the union. It would increase transparency because, again, it is a public board, so it has to meet subject to the open meeting law, subject to the executive session rules, which allow us to negotiate with unions in private. There is some baggage with this article. Because it's old, as you know, we've enacted a number of employment laws since then, like FMLA, or the Uniform Services Reemployment Act, and several other laws like that. However, because this is a town bylaw, all the legal effective language, if passed, is that it will change the identity of the decision maker. It will move human resources authority from the town administrator position into the personnel board supervising the clerk of personnel. Labor law is an extremely technical area of law, and I don't envy Mr. Gustus or Mr. Mullen those tasks. They're extremely complicated areas of both state and federal law that have many moving pieces. This is effectively a motion that we put forth to have a small group of townspeople who are dedicated to studying these issues and reporting back to you on a regular basis. It used to be that every year, without fail, the personnel board came before you and gave recommendations about what union increases were, about what its activities were. You also saw regular reports about how many town employees were hired or how many were being laid off and whatnot. To the extent that that's still possible, we should encourage it. Public participation and public scrutiny is the best disinfectant, if you forgive the paraphrase of Mr. Brandeis. The personnel board is an important function. It doesn't apply to department heads, but it applies to regular rank and file employees. It applies to folks who regularly and faithfully perform our functions and give us the government services that we expect of them. They shouldn't be subject to political whims. Believe it or not, this is kind of a dovetail with the other article. It will remove politics from the rank and file employees. It means that they get to negotiate with a neutral personnel board. It means that they're not subject to the rules of the board, except as enacted through the department heads. It also will actually, believe it or not, restore the back to the department heads. Because the department heads will make the personnel board for their negotiating objective before they negotiate with the unions. It also will allow them, our department heads, our subject matter area experts, to better know what they're negotiating with their employees to get. Lastly, it will also function to protect public employees. It will, in fact, act as a mini civil service commission. It is a nonpartisan board that removes from them any concerns. Just by way of anecdotal evidence, when I was circulating the petition for the town administrator, there were 4 town employees who wouldn't sign, or were reluctant to sign because they were afraid it would interfere with their employment. Our town employees should never have to fear for political retribution or anything of the kind. I don't think their fears were reasonable, but they had them. And if you have a personnel board, our town employees are insulated from political interference. They go out and do the best job they can for us, without fear of retribution, without partisan politics. They can stand up and say, I think X is right, and hopefully the department head will agree, and if not, the personnel board will hash out the issue. It can bring more public scrutiny. It does contain some holes, and there are no two ways about that, but that's part of a function of bringing it to you. Many of the holes that are left by enacting a piece of legislation like this can very easily be filled by a personnel board to come right in and enact an FMLA policy, and a uniform services reemployment policy. Many of those policies are not required to be reflected in our bylaws. In fact, they're not. It's not going to hurt our town. In regard to the union, all of their benefits are guaranteed by state law. There are a complex series of laws in regard to the Joint Management Labor Committee in Boston, as well as the Department of Labor Relations. We will not suffer anything for having doing this. All we're going to say is that in the future, the decision makers about personnel policies will be different. Lots of towns around us do have personnel boards. They're not, so to speak, in vogue, but believe it or not, the town of Middleton has an even stronger personnel board than the one that our personnel board ever was at its heyday. In Middleton, the personnel board is directly allowed to give orders in terms of broad-based orders to their employees in terms of setting employment policies, like protesting, and things like that. If you've ever read in the newspapers about what Boston mayor is trying to change and interact with unions, this is, in effect, a public break. I hope that it benefits both the unions and you as townspeople. By having a board of you devoting your expertise to this, and studying the expenditures and understanding the rules, and by gathering experts from amongst us, the townspeople, we'll have a better handle on what goes on, and we'll have more public accountability for what goes on, and we will also protect our public employees. This is not in any way to denigrate the brilliant performance of Mr. Maney and Mr. Gustus. His accolades are well deserved. But effectively, in the future, what we want to do is to have a different decision maker. to look more like the towns around us and to provide our public employees with some guarantees of their security as well as stability. Because if they only have to negotiate, if they have to negotiate with a single person, good, bad, or otherwise, the next town administrator may not be as skilled as our current gentleman. If you have a rotating board with fixed-year terms, they're independent, they bring their expertise and they keep it. Therefore, I please ask you to consider voting for this Article 7. Thank you very much.
So, recommendation from the Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen recommends indefinite postponement of Article 7.
Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee voted unanimously not to recommend this article.
School Committee?
School committee voted unanimously not to recommend this article.
Is there any further discussion on the article? Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. When I saw this article being proposed the first time, I brought this to the Secretary of State's office and had their legal team look at this. And I think it touches on some things that even Mr. Faria was talking about earlier, that these articles, changes that they're looking to have us vote on from 1983, this one in particular, is there's been so many law changes and on the federal and state level since 1983 that the one thing I agree with from Mr. Walsh is that it has a lot of holes in it. And this particular one, you get into the Family Medical Leave Act, the Handicap and Discrimination Acts, you get privacy laws and many sexual harassment, work environment laws that have all changed since '83. This is bringing us back to before any of those were enacted. And this would need so much revision to even be considered legal today that it's something that we shouldn't even consider. It wouldn't even pertain to running our town. So I strongly recommend you vote no on this article.
Further discussion on the article? Up in the back, sir.
Andy Younger, Pine Hill Road. I'd like to hear from Mr. Augustus a glimpse of some of the complexities of union negotiating, or how do you negotiate contracts. In your opinion, how would some volunteers that are unfamiliar with this kind of work fare at the negotiating table with seasoned professionals negotiating for the unions?
Mr. Augustus.
Well, I don't want to presuppose that we can't find 5 very able and capable individuals to sit on a personnel board who might be able to do this. But I can tell you that it's a very time-extensive process. And under the personnel bylaw that was being proposed, they would have to meet at least once a month for at least 10 months out of the year. And I can tell you that during negotiation sessions, there are 7 unions. And we start in September, and we go through likely the April, May timeframe. And we meet several times a month for several hours each time. And that's multiplied by 7. And it all happens in the same year. And I think it's an awful burden to put on a personnel board. In fact, when I first got here, I tried to engage the personnel board in this process, understanding that we had a personnel board, and under our current consolidated personnel bylaw, they have a responsibility to advise the town administrator on negotiating positions and the like. And at that time, in the first round of negotiations, I invited the personnel board to attend negotiating sessions with me. It proved to be quite a burden, and after several sessions, the board said, "You're doing a good job, just give us the report later." And over time, because of the way the personnel bylaw was written, their role in making decisions was diminished. And at the current time, I think we have one member of the personnel board. It has been out there, we've been looking for members for quite some time, and I have quite a bit of trouble getting anyone to serve. Now, I suspect that maybe part of that is they're strictly an advisory body. But with respect to whether that board could conduct collective bargaining, I suppose it could if it was willing to put in a significant amount of time and it had significant personnel experience, which I'm not sure you would get in a voluntary board such as that, but I suppose it is possible.
Any further questions on Article 7? In the red hair, I'm sorry, in pink. Please, you're going to have to wait for the microphone to get down, ma'am, and please stand and identify yourself.
Karen Duncan, Parsons Avenue. It's after 9 o'clock, and I'm old, and I couldn't hear what he was saying. He was talking so fast, so I don't even know what he was talking about, but I don't think it's a good thing. So I think we should carry on.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Article 7? Mrs. Campbell.
I have asked the selectmen to convene a personnel board because it was in the charter that I read when I first came to town. I looked it up again. It's on page 6 and page 17. Personnel board is referred to. I think it's a great idea to distribute some power. You cannot tell me that there's nobody in this town that can serve on a personnel board that's had any experience with negotiations. I find that hard to believe. But anyway, I am opposed to this because it's far too complex. It needs a public hearing. We need a charter commission, just as a previous speaker said. So I am opposed to it. But the merits of the work that Mr. Walsh and the other petitioners that had to sign the petition, I think it deserves a look from this town.
Any further discussion on the article? Mr. Cunola.
My name is Joseph Trinello from 1377 Main Street in Lynnfield. I served on the personnel board at the time the bylaws were changed to the current bylaws, and there's at least one other member in the audience from the school board who was on at that time as well. And our thought was that I want to say I wholeheartedly agree, I won't repeat it, but wholeheartedly agree with what Mr. Augustus has said and what Phil said as well. The town is increasingly complex. We didn't feel that a voluntary board had the proper insight to handle employment matters, and we felt unanimously that these decisions should rest with the leading official for the town, which is Mr. Augustus and those who follow him. So, Chris, you may want to say something on it as well, but I fully agree with everything that has been said in terms of leaving things as they are now and not adopting this bylaw.
Any further discussion on the article? Mr. Adelson.
Jack Adelson, 9 Yorkshire Drive. I can speak to this person as well. I was on the personnel board, I think, prior to Joe and Chris, I believe under the old system. And there were 5 of us. One of us had some private sector personnel experience, but no municipal experience whatsoever. So we were totally dependent upon the town labor council to do anything which racked up thousands of dollars in legal bills, and it put us at a tremendous disadvantage. We were volunteer, unpaid volunteer citizens sitting across the table in union negotiations. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's a very uncomfortable, stressful position to put a resident in. I wouldn't want to do it, and it's no way to run a business. I mean, who owns a business and brings in unpaid volunteers with full-time jobs and other professions to do these things? It's unheard of. Thank you.
Mr. Faria.
Mr. Moderator, I move the question.
It's been moved and seconded to proceed to a vote. We'll proceed to a vote on the motion to move the question. All those in favor of proceeding to a vote signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Move on to a vote of Article 7 to see if the town will, on the motion was... That the town amend the bylaws by deleting Chapter 3, Section 2 of the bylaws and insert in its place a new Chapter 3, Section 2 as printed in the warrant to take effect January 1st, 2015. I'll try a voice vote again. All those in favor of this article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes clearly have it. The article fails. Mr. Chernow, you may rise to a point of personal preference.
Mr. Walsh, I want to thank you on behalf of the town for having the courage to put in the time to put together these articles, even though they weren't approved by town meeting. It shows your courage and the care that you have for this town. So I want to thank you very much for coming forward and doing this for us.
Article 8, to see if the town will adopt the following. Residents in the vicinity of Sparhawk Drive, Lynnfield, Mass. request to have the intersection of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street closed due to constant cut-through traffic and U-turns. This has caused a public safety issue. To see if the town will vote to abandon the public way at the corner of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street, or what action will take thereon. Petitioner here to make the motion. Mr. Casoli.
This has been about an 18 to 20 month process. It's been a long process.
Mr. Casoli, I need a motion that the town can vote on, so you need to make a motion on what you would like to do.
We would like to put Jersey barriers across the street to close it.
You need to move to do something, whether it's to abandon Sparhawk or Walnut as a public way, or it requires a motion from the floor in a second to actually do this.
Mr. Moderator, Wallace McKenzie, 4 Debston Lane. Make a motion as written here in the article. Is that sufficient? Or do I have to read it?
Well, Mr. McKenzie, I'm not trying to be difficult here, but a motion that residents in the vicinity of Sparhawk Drive request doesn't really give the town something to vote on. You'd have to move to have the intersection of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street closed.
Okay. Move to make the intersection of Sparhawk and Walnut Street closed. Due to constant cut-through traffic and turns, this has caused a public safety issue. And to see if the town will vote to abandon the public way at the corner of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street.
The format of the motion I'm concerned about, and again, I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm trying to figure out how to format this so it... Mr. McKenzie, I would accept the motion to have the intersection of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street closed, and to see if the town will vote to abandon the public way at the corner of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street. Is that your motion, effectively? Okay, is there a second to that motion? It's been moved and seconded to have the intersection of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street closed, and to see if the town will vote to abandon the public way at the corner of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street. Mr. Casoli, if you'd like to speak to the petition, you may do so at this time.
Frank DeLisi, 2 Sparhawk. I have heard that some people think that the signs that were placed on Sparhawk and Walnut are working fine. Sitting in my family room day after day, I see that the signs are not working fine, and I would take it a step further that Walnut and Sparhawk configuration is counterproductive to the safety of the residents of the area. The do not enter signs are actually endangering people more than they are protecting them. Drivers see the signs as they approach Sparhawk and speed up Sparhawk even faster than before because they are afraid that they will get caught and get a ticket. The current configuration is counterproductive because as drivers heading in the wrong direction approach, they see this inviting oversized road that is just tailor-made for a U-turn. With the increased traffic on Walnut and the added light cycles, the impact to traffic on Walnut and safety on Sparhawk has been multiplied. I have seen cars drive down the wrong side of the road on Walnut Street to get to Sparhawk to circumvent traffic. My daughter, who was 7 at the time, was with me in the yard when we witnessed someone speeding off Walnut onto Sparhawk in front of oncoming traffic, and he didn't make it. I can tell you the impression of that accident left everybody shaking. The signs and police presence on Sparhawk has actually made traffic worse, as cars on Walnut often pump their brakes to see if there's a police officer present, or as they decide if they want to ignore the signs altogether and make a U-turn or speed up. Again, magnifying the public safety issues. This is a public safety issue. As many people have heard me say, it is a matter of when, not if, something terrible happens. I can go on about different things that have happened, people urinating in my front yard, coming from Market Street. There was the day I was playing with my 4-year-old daughter in the front yard. A large truck made a U-turn on Sparhawk, taking down a pretty large branch. The branch just missed landing on top of my daughter. I have pictures of all this I can show you, but the cars are constantly throwing trash into my front yard. The other day I was picking up trash and somebody threw a half-full 6-pack right at my feet while I had my back turned. I've had cars speed into my driveway while my kids are riding their bikes, while they're riding their scooters, and almost hit them just to make a U-turn. Many cars have slid on ice and snow while attempting U-turns, ending up on the sidewalk, in my driveway, or driving on the sidewalks for a short distance, and then getting back onto the street. I cannot in good conscience ever let my children walk on the sidewalks in front of my house or ride their bikes out there because it is just too dangerous. I cringe whenever anyone in my family pulls out of my driveway because it is that dangerous. Last month, I was in a small fender bender, pulling out of my driveway. I looked, nobody was there, proceeded about 10 more feet, and I hit somebody 5:30 in the afternoon who sped through the turn, past the do not enter signs, and I got him. My oldest daughter is a brand new driver. My second oldest will be getting her license in the next few weeks, and I worry about them all the time, just getting out of my driveway, never mind onto the roads. I knew moving in on Sparhawk, that Walnut was a well-traveled road, but Market Street has changed everything in the area. The traffic lights have changed, and even the type of traffic has changed. The volume of cars on the road has increased significantly, the driver demographic has changed, and the commercial vehicles have increased. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Market Street is bad. My family and I are there all the time. People at Yankee Candle and Davio's and everywhere know us by name. But what I'm saying is, Market Street has caused the traffic to evolve, and we need to adapt to these changes to make it safer for the public. Make no mistake, this is a public safety issue. You have the opportunity right here, right now, to be proactive, to make a decision that improves safety for my family, other families on Sparhawk, and the surrounding areas, and future families who may move into the area before something horrific happens and forces your hand. I know that it is inconvenient to drive an extra 2 to 3 minutes around the turns, but really that is what it comes down to. I have 3 of my children standing up in the back right there. What I'm asking is, kids, stand up for a second. In the back row there, is 2 to 3 minutes of an inconvenience worth their safety. That's what it is. If you think that the 2 to 3 minutes is not worth my children's safety, raise your hand. I promise I will never mention this at town hall again. Thank you.
Further discussion or actually recommendations from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommends indefinite postponement of Article 8.
Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee does not recommend Article 8 as laid out. The vote was not unanimous, and there was quite a lot of discussion.
Planning Board?
Planning Board makes no recommendation on this article.
Mr. Moderator, may I speak?
What is it, Mr. Casoli?
My name is Bob Casoy, I live at 1 Sparhawk Drive. This has been about an 18-month process. We started going through.
And I haven't recognized you yet, Mr. Casoli, I'm sorry. You know, I recognize Mr. DeLisi to speak, or somebody to speak on behalf of the article when it was submitted, and I asked for a speaker to support it, and Mr. DeLisi got up and made his presentation. I'd be happy to call on you before the night's over, but I haven't recognized you. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll speak down here so I don't keep turning my back to anybody. I believe Mr. DeLisi and the Casolis have a legitimate concern here because there are some issues down in this area, and we've dealt with this in a public forum with Selectman Terranova and in a subsequent meeting to that. And I'm not here to persuade you to vote for or against this, but similar to some of the prior warrant articles, there are some unintended consequences with this. One of the issues we have down in this area is truck enforcement. And we have dealt with the residents, with the state police truck team, and with the Lynnfield Police Department to try to address these concerns. If this road is closed off, this will severely hamper our ability to conduct truck enforcement in that area. Because this road has a wide radius. It's the only road on that end of Walnut Street, which is south of Salem, that is wide enough at the beginning and wide enough to stop trucks. And also, we have a clear vision, direct line of view in both ways where we can stop traffic, step out onto the roadway, pull the trucks onto Sparhawk, and conduct traffic enforcement and citation issuing. We can't do that down on Blue Jay. The road is too narrow. The radius is much narrower. And also, when trucks are coming from Saugus into Lynnfield, there isn't enough room for us to stop traffic going towards Saugus, step out into the roadway, and direct 18-wheelers up into that neighborhood. So that is a concern that I have. The other concern I've heard from residents that live in the Blue Jay and the farther end of Walnut Street, and they are concerned that this is just going to push traffic and push the problem down to another area. So it will solve a problem, but it will create one. Now, I believe that's a legitimate concern as well, because at the beginning, when the road is blocked off, people will drive down there, they won't be able to turn down Sparhawk. But as they become more familiar with that, and the traffic backs up like it does, they will go up Blue Jay, down Tedford, to the far end of Sparhawk, onto Hidden Valley, and then turn left onto Salem Street. So please consider that. Those are a couple of the consequences that I think this will provide. I certainly agree with the residents down there. There are no easy answers. And we'll continue to conduct enforcement down there, and I encourage anybody to call me with concerns. We recently had a concern that Selectman Terranova alerted me to with residents on Salem Street now who want similar enforcement that we've been doing down on Walnut Street. So those are the two main issues I have with the passing of this particular bylaw. Please consider that when voting. Thank you.
Mr. Casoli, do you want to speak?
Thank you. Bob Casoli, 1 Sparhawk Drive. This has been about an 18-month process. We started off with Dave Nelson, then Tom Trevanova got involved in this. It's been a long process. We put barrels up, we put a median strip up, they put up signs. It's not working. This is not good for the whole neighborhood, I agree. But doing nothing is even worse. You've got, in front of my house, you've got people urinating, people changing diapers. The police chief knows people have come by, booted up, shot up needles, dumped them there. This problem, I'm fortunate I don't have no children, but everybody on my street that has children, this is getting worse and worse. Believe me, I love Market Street, but make no mistake about it. There's a problem in the neighborhood. And I agree with my neighbors, you're pushing the problem down. But by doing nothing, you will never solve this problem. Closing Sparhawk Drive temporarily, putting Jersey barriers over there, let's see how it works out. If it doesn't work out, we can take them. The only thing I was confused about is I'd like to get a ruling from legal on abandoning the road. It was brought up tonight that by abandoning the road, we would be responsible for snow plowing and sanding. And that was news to me, because when I put this article together, I talked to several people. I went and met with Bill Gustus. They made me change the language. I went out and got signatures. Sam DeMarco helped me get signatures. I feel like I'm getting a runaround. I really feel like government has failed us. If you told us in the beginning, we would have never went through this process. I went to Mr. Gustus, I asked him, is this language fine? He said, no, you need to abandon the corner of Sparhawk Drive. We added that in, we did another petition. And here we are today, finding out 1 hour ago that we may be responsible for the snow plowing and sanding of that street. I'd like to get a legal opinion on that.
Tom Mullen, I'm the town council. Let's distinguish among 3 things that we could do at this corner. There's only one thing the town meeting can do, and that is to discontinue a way. Right? So if you had a vote, for example, on the warrant article to discontinue Sparhawk Drive as a public way, that would be a legitimate action of town meeting. And then if it passed, all of Sparhawk would cease to be a public way. That's obviously not what you're looking to do here. What you're really looking to do is to alter 2 ways in the way that they intersect. And if you vote to relocate or alter 1 or more public ways, that has to begin with the selectmen. It ends with town meeting, but it has to begin with the selectmen. The process is very specific under the statutes. The selectmen have to do a layout, which is a plan, and they have to describe by meets and bounds exactly where they want the way to be. That has to be filed with the town clerk's office. There has to be hand-delivered notice to all of the abutters. There has to be a selectmen's hearing. Then it is proposed at town meeting, and town meeting has to approve it, and then we record it in the registry of deeds. We go through this process every time we accept a public way. And it's the same process if we relocate or alter a public way, which is what's being proposed here today. That's why I construe this article as being, at best, advisory to the selectmen. You are in effect telling them, this is what we want you to do at this intersection. We want you to begin the process of altering or relocating these 2 ways at that intersection, and come back to us after the layout has been done. Finally, there's something else the selectmen can do, and that is they can abandon any part of a public way if they determine that it is unused for ordinary travel, and that the common convenience and necessity no longer require it to be maintained. If that happens, then it's no longer maintained by the town, but it continues to be open for travel. So no, I'm not suggesting that this article is going to lead to any private parties being responsible for any costs. My point rather is that I see this as being, again, at best, advisory to the selectmen.
Further discussion of the article? Gentleman right in the middle here.
Yes, my name is Robert Gray. I live at 8 Tedford Lane.
And the problem is, if you do this the way they want to do it, that the road, Blue Jay would become the thoroughfare. And what happens is the people go up Blue Jay, and then coming down by my house, they're speeding, they're going 40 to 50 miles an hour. That's what happens. So I don't think that would be a good idea to close that road off, because it would just divert the problem and make it a major problem for us. And it actually impacts much more people to live along Blue Jay and Tedford than it would be in Sparhawk. Thank you.
I'll recognize the woman right next to you. Just pass the mic right behind you.
My name is Joyce Gray, and I live at 8 Tedford Lane. Been down that hill since 1972. It was one big playpen. 33 children lived on that hill when I moved in. The end of Tedford was a dead-end street. It was great. The children played outside all the time, no fear of traffic. Did I like change when Tedford Lane became development on the other end? No, but it's called change. So we went with change. You have to adapt to it all. Our children had to learn to watch for traffic. Now Market Street goes in. Did I like Market Street? No, at first I really didn't, because it was like, I grew up in Saugus on Walnut Street, heavy traffic all my life. So I knew the whole area. For 59 years I've known the area, because I've been there since I was 10 years old, in Saugus and then Lynnfield. Traffic is something you have to deal with. Children have to learn. I learned at a very young age. What I'm saying is I didn't like Market Street because I loved the colonial, I loved the whole aspect of it. There again is change. So you go with it. You learn to go with change, because that's what life is all about. Children will learn, we all adapt. And that's the way life is. So I feel, don't close Sparhawk. You're going to only ask for more trouble. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the article? Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This past act, I want to reel the clock back a bit. At the selectmen meeting, we had talked about this quite a bit. And one of my concerns was whether people in the general Sparhawk, Blue Jay area knew about this vote tonight. So what I did was I spent the greater part of Saturday afternoon with the flyer, walking the neighborhood and talking to people, going door to door. And what I found out for the most part was most people were unaware of this article that we're discussing right now. So much of the day I spent educating people and asking people to attend. So it was entirely up to them to decide whether they were in favor of this article or not. So that was one critical issue. The other issue, I was a big proponent and supporter of the no U-turn signs and the signs controlling the hours in which people could use Sparhawk. When those signs went up, a week or two later, I happened to be driving down to go to Saugus, and I saw Mr. Pizzoli standing outside, so I pulled over to chat with him to find out how the signs were working. Much to my surprise, within 10 minutes, 3 cars made U-turns right in front of the signs. The signs apparently had absolutely no consequences to these people. And I must say, Chief Breen, I want to thank you for all of your efforts. People have been contacting me with different issues, and this being one of them. And I really want to commend you and your entire police force for coming out and supporting a lot of the people's issues. And this issue right here that we're talking about, Police Chief Breen was kind enough to get the state police truck force down there. And inside of 3 hours, they issued $3,000 in fines. $3,000 in 3 hours. So there certainly is some activity going on down there. And we definitely need to address it. So the issue is, what is the proper way? If a group wants to have it closed, another group doesn't want to, we still have a problem there. There's a large number of vehicles that are using that road, some illegal truck usage that is continually being dealt with, but the volume has increased substantially. Back in July at the Selectmen's meeting, we had MassDOT down, and they made it clear that the lights that they installed primarily moved traffic off of 128 first. That was their priority. So it seems now people coming down 128 south, when they see traffic, they're cutting down Walnut Street. And if the lights are created such that they're going to move traffic off of 128, then that means the townsfolk, the local people, we're stuck sitting at those lights while whatever number of cars come off of 128, head down Walnut Street, head down Salem Street. So we have a very complex issue here, and it's not really, you can't say this is Market Street, this is the lights causing this problem. But nonetheless, we have the results that we have to deal with. If we block the street, we have other streets that will now be dealing with increased traffic. If we do nothing, it's a matter of time until something absolutely horrific happens on Sparhawk. So we really need to do something there, whether it's narrowing that road substantially, which then unfortunately will make it difficult for Chief Green to enforce traffic violations down there. But something needs to happen to slow down the number of U-turns, whether it be by cars, by trucks. Chief Green is doing what he can with the forces that he has to try to slow the traffic down in that area. But we still need to do something with the increased traffic, the U-turns. I was appalled to see the picture on Mr. Cattoli's phone where someone actually stopped the car to urinate on his neighbor's front lawn. I was appalled. I couldn't believe someone would do that in midday. But I guess things happen. And for someone who, I grew up in East Boston, right by Santarpio's, with traffic, totally accustomed to traffic. And to throw in a bonus, we had the airport, which had planes close enough to the ground you could throw a stone and hit it. But when you move to Lynnfield, you just don't expect these kinds of things. So I think as a united family, if you will, we need to help the people on Sparhawk resolve this problem. And if it's not closing down the street, we need to find another solution. I don't think they want to close the street and then add a financial burden on themselves. So we really need to reach out and help our neighbors here with a very sound solution. So whether this is the start, a first step in another process, or whether this issue is just going to die on the vine, so to speak, but I hope that this is merely the first step in finding a long-term solution, because today it's Sparhawk, tomorrow it's your street. And then you're going to want attention. And you're going to be looking for help from your neighbors to help support you with your problem resolution. So I think we should all work together to help the residents of Sparhawk with this problem. Thank you.
Up in the back, the second row first.
Good evening, Jim Fox, Fox Lane. I live around the corner from Bob. I came here tonight to support Bob in his efforts, and I'll still support him. I got a little problem with the mentality that I hear about enforcement. I was in Milton this morning. I had to go to the Milton Hospital, that's where my doctor is. And I drove through Milton Academy, which is a private school, right back development there. And it's a public street that runs beside it. And you know what those geniuses do there? They get a police car, not a soul in it, with the lights flashing on the top. You know, I didn't see a single person going over the speed limit, not a single person. I had recommended at the selectmen's meeting that we put a cop on one of the islands, and we were told, well, there's no ramp for the car to go up or whatever. I saw a police vehicle on one of those islands the day the guy from DOT was up. Bob's told me when they're stopping the trucks there in front of his house, it's like a truck stop. And this guy's little kids are right where the trucks are pulled in. If you put the motorcycle on the island And I don't care if you put it on the north side or the south side. We've got a motorcycle now. That island has a ramp that you could drive the bike off of. But you put that motorcycle out there every single day, instead of wasting time out of view. The chief liked that. He was telling us at the selectmen's meeting, he liked to hide when he used to write tickets. And put a vehicle there. Prevention is what we need. That's what the woman from Salem Street was asking for. There's some kind of police presence. And that's what's needed. That would stop the trucks. You don't have to write $3,000 worth of tickets. You have a police presence with a motorcycle cop on one of those islands. North side, south side, doesn't matter. And I don't think there's too many truck drivers that are going to drive down that street. Does anybody in this room think so? I doubt it. So maybe we could think out of the box a little bit in this town and do some things that need to be done. Thank you.
All the questions.
I identified him as a speaker, he's called the question. Mrs. Campbell, I'll run the meeting, okay? You may have called for whatever you'd like. I did not recognize you as a speaker. I recognize the gentleman in the back who moved the question. It's a second on moving the question. It's been moved and seconded to move Article 7 to a vote, Article 9 to a vote, I'm sorry. Okay. What happened, Dave? Sorry. It's been moved and seconded to move Article 8 to a vote. All those in favor of moving the question signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? No. Let's count this up. If you're in favor of moving the question, please put your cards in the air. The tellers are here. Please take account of your respective section. Mr. LeConte, your count. Mr. Maney? Mr. Manning? Mr. McKendrick?
29.
Who's my other teller? Nay votes, please put your cards up. Mr. LeConte, the no vote? Mr. Maney? 17. Mr. McKendrick?
6.
Mr. Manning?
31.
(107 to 68). The motion to move the question carries. Proceeding to a vote on Article 8. To see if the town will have the intersection of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street closed, and see if the town will vote to abandon the public way at the corner of Sparhawk Drive and Walnut Street. All those in favor of the article signify by putting your cards up. tellers could count again. Yes votes, Mr. LaConte? 18. Mr. Manning? 17. Mr. McKendrick? 6. Mr. Manning? 19. All those opposed to Article 8 signify by putting your cards up. Mr. LaConte, your no vote?
21.
Mr. McKendrick?
25.
Mr. Manning? 28. Mr. Manning?
24.
By a vote of 98 to 60, the article fails. Moving on to Article 9. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell by sealed bid the real property known and numbered as 567 Main Street, Lynnfield, Massachusetts, including the structures and fixtures thereon erected being the same property conveyed by deed dated December 28, 2007, and recorded with the Essex South District Registry of Deeds at Book 27459, page 242, to Donald M. Donovan, Charles S. Donovan, and Alice F. Kiernan, trustees of the Center Farm Nominee Realty Trust II, on the declaration of trust dated December 28, 2007, and recorded with said deeds in Book 27459, page 234, consisting of 7 acres on such terms and conditions as the selectmen deem prudent, or what action will take thereon. Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell by sealed bid the real property known and numbered as 567 Main Street, Lynnfield, Massachusetts, including the structures and fixtures thereon erected being the same property conveyed by deed dated December 28, 2007, and recorded with the Essex South District Registry of Deeds at Book 27459, page 242, to Donald M. Donovan, Charles S. Donovan, and Alice F. Kiernan, trustees of the Center Farm Nominee Trust, 2. Under declaration of trust dated December 28, 2007, and recorded with said deeds at Book 27459, page 234, consisting of 7 acres on such terms and conditions as the selectmen deem prudent, provided that the sale price is equal to or greater than $1,500,000. This has been, the selectmen have voted to indefinitely postpone this.
Well, you've made your motion, Mr. Terranova. At this point, if it doesn't get a second, it will fail and we can move on to the next article. Okay. Is there a second to the motion? All right, let's proceed to a discussion. Board of Selectmen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. We did not receive any sealed bids, so it was voted that we would indefinitely postpone Article 9.
Mr. Dahlstead?
Our committee had voted to recommend this prior to understanding there was no sealed bids. So, it was recommended.
Would somebody like, on the Board of Selectmen, like to move to indefinitely postpone this article?
I move to indefinitely postpone Article 9.
Second that.
Any further discussion, Mrs. Campbell?
Will this be brought up again at the next town meeting in April?
Selectmen?
Should,
I'll defer to Mr. Gustus on that since he is.
Well, now that there has not been at this point a vote to sell the property is still with the Capital Facilities Advisory Committee to review what possible uses the property could be put to, and at that point, it can be brought back to town meeting. But I think that everybody, with respect to this article, thought it would be in response to a received bid. We did not receive any bids last Friday. And the Board of Selectmen decided to take some more time. I mean, it may come back up at the spring town meeting, but I'm not sure about that. It'll be up to the Board of Selectmen to decide.
what about the loan? Sorry. What about the loan? What will be the condition of the, we've taken money, we borrowed money from our own funds
From the,
to
yes.
purchase the property, correct?
We did an internal borrowing from our general fund, which needs to be paid off prior to the end of June. If this were to come up again at the Springtown meeting, or prior to that to sell it, it may be possible not to have to borrow that money short term. But that internal borrowing from the general fund must be paid off prior to the end of June.
Thank you.
Mr. Prosperi?
Bob Prosperi, 6 Charing Cross. I was going to compliment the selectmen for doing a great job on Article 9. I just don't understand why we can't approve it. Just because you didn't get a bid by a certain date, why can't we approve it to allow you to sell it? Thank you.
Would anyone on the board like to comment on that? Any other discussion? Mr. Custis, go ahead.
In order to have this motion come to the floor, it would be necessary for the Board of Selectmen this evening to vote to declare the property surplus. They did not do that prior to the meeting because they did not have a bid. Correct me if I'm wrong, Town Council, but they could do it now if they decided to.
Well, the statute, Chapter 40, Section 14, says that the officers who possess or control the property have to vote that it is surplus prior to a town meeting vote to authorize sale. And they did not make that vote prior to tonight's town meeting.
Mr. Prosperi, I'll let you follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm just trying to understand this. If there's an article there, number 9, how could we have voted on it? If you say we cannot vote on it tonight because we didn't declare it surplus, if there was a bid on it, it wouldn't have been declared surplus either. So why can't we just declare it surplus, allow them to do their job and they've thought it out so well, let them sell the property? Thank you.
The woman right behind, right there.
Karen Duggan, 31 Parsons Avenue. If If you did get a bid from now till June, you could have a special town meeting like we had before to discuss it. Because we'd like to look at the terms and conditions, or we'd like to hear about them prior to the sale. Yes?
Mr. Costas?
It would be possible to do another RFP if the Board of Selectmen so choose. The Board of Selectmen would first, before it came to town meeting, would have to vote to declare the property surplus. They did not take that action at their meeting before this meeting because they did not have a bid. If they had a bid, they would have declared it surplus, which is the answer to Mr. Prosperity's question. They did not do that prior to this meeting because they did not have a bid. But if after discussing it, the Board of Selectmen should decide to put out another RFP with either different terms or conditions or a different price, and did that before the April town meeting, it could in fact come back in April. But that will be up for the Selectmen to decide what to do. Last Friday was the bid opening, and there was no time to react or put anything else together before this meeting this evening.
Mr. Wills?
It seems to me that they could put it out with no minimum because they're going to have the right to take or reject all the bids anyway, right? Normally.
Yes, we always reserve the right to.
You got nothing to lose and you'll find out where the market is.
True.
Well, there's a motion on the floor to indefinitely postpone the article first, so before we go to the question, let's go to indefinitely postponing the article. But that was also shown without being recognized, so Mr. LaConte, I'll go to you first. Wait for the microphone, please, then identify yourself when it gets there.
Hi, Debbie LaConte, 86 Perry Ave. I'm just really confused because we packed this place last spring. We had over 560-something people here. And I thought, when I stayed through the presentation, that we had 2 years. I thought it was 2 years that we had to come up with proposals of what we wanted to see done with the property. And gee, I wanted to be on a committee because I was really excited about transforming this maybe into like a royal house that we have in Medford where I grew up. There's just endless possibilities. I wanted to sell calendars and Christmas cards. I think it's a great piece of property. And I went in during the Civil War demonstration, and the lady in the Historical Society told me, oh no, we're going to sell that. It will be sold by town meeting. And I thought, wow, is that a negative closed mind? I thought we had an open mind for 2 years. That's what I thought.
Mr. Crawford.
We did have a charge we gave to the Capital Facilities Committee to put this under their umbrella and look at it for the time frame we gave to the Capital Facilities Committee for the 2-year time frame. That's where that came from. When the proposals came in from Northrop Realtors that they had some potential bidders for this property, that's when we came up with the warrant article to put this out there and have it out for bid and possibly resell it. And then we did have, the CFAC committee did have a meeting with the residents to discuss this and see what other possibilities we could have for the building. And those are still in play at this point. Obviously, we didn't get any bids for the building. It's still under the Capital Facilities Advisory Committee for the next year and a half. We just brought this forward to town meeting because we had the opportunity to possibly sell the building at what we thought was going to be roughly our cost of the building and have a preservation restriction put on the building to keep it basically in the form it is now. Unfortunately, we didn't get those bids. And in the meantime, we've appropriated some funds to do some repairs to the building before the winter comes. We felt that it was necessary to get those repairs done at this point. We don't have time right now to go out to a new bid and lower the price and also get those repairs done by the time winter hits. So we thought we would get the repairs done over the winter, before the winter hit, and maintain the building over the winter, and then address the issue again in the spring. That's where we are now.
Mr. Faria.
Mr. Moderator, based upon what town council said earlier, I would move the question of indefinite postponement.
It's been moved and seconded to move the question to indefinitely postpone. Yes, ma'am, your point of order?
Jennifer Taggart and Maiden Lane. If in fact the article required the selectmen to take a vote for it to be surplus, for it to appear on the warrant, should the article even be on the warrant, and should we even be voting on it?
Mr. Mullin?
Or should it have been removed?
Mr. Mullin?
The anticipation was that the selectmen would vote to render the property surplus based on the results of the RFP. Since nobody made any proposals, the selectmen decided not to do that. At this point, I think the only appropriate thing for town meeting to do would be indefinite postponement.
Or remove it? Well, I guess I would ask you, is the article legal at this point?
I don't think that you could vote in favor of authorizing the release of the sale of the property, given that...
I'm not suggesting that we vote on anything. I'm suggesting that this article should not be in the warrant.
That's the same thing as voting indefinite postponement. A negative vote is indefinite postponement.
Sir.
So the question's been moved and seconded. Let's proceed to a vote on whether we should move to a vote on the indefinite postponement. We are currently voting to see if we would move to a vote. All those in favor of abandoning debate and moving to a vote signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Moving to the motion to indefinitely postpone Article 9. All those in favor of to indefinitely postpone Article 9 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Article 9 is indefinitely postponed. Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer a sum of money for repairing various pre-existing drainage pipes and systems located under the new high school turf fields, or what action will take thereon. Mr. Nelson.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate $100,000 to pay for repairs to various pre-existing drainage pipes and systems located under the new high school turf fields.
Second motion.
It's been moved and seconded to raise and appropriate $100,000 to pay for repairs to various pre-existing drainage pipes and systems located under the new high school turf fields. Recommendations from the Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommend Article 10.
Finance Committee.
Finance Committee unanimously recommended Article 10.
Any discussion? Mrs. Campbell.
Well, we've shown lots of pictures of how the fields were muddy. Now maybe we have the answer to why. $100,000, is it? To make the repairs? Over and above the 7 million, was it? Okay.
Any further discussion on the item? Mr. LaConte.
Monty Perriott. Are these brand new fields, weren't the engineering study taking in effect this drainage issue under here? I mean, are the fields all done? We're going to dig them all up now and put drainage pipes in?
Mr. Crawford.
No, we had to fix the drainage so we didn't have to dig up the fields afterwards. These were repairs to the existing drainage for the schools that we fixed while we were digging up the fields. It was unanticipated work that we got done and paid for, and now we're trying to get that reimbursement for those funds that we did for the schools under the field project, so because we don't want to have to dig them up later. So we brought in a camera crew that ran the little robot cameras through all the pipes, and we found many breaks and problems with the pipes that they're all fixed and in perfect shape now, and this is just to pay for them.
Any further discussion? Right directly behind Mr. LaConte.
Paul Briggs, 19 Kindlewood Road. Mr. LaConte had most of my question. I guess I would just add to that the question, was there any cushion left in the budget, a $7 million budget, to account for any of these overruns? And if so, where did that cushion go? And what would happen if we didn't pay for this? I think it was mentioned somewhere that some money would be taken away from further improvements of the fields. So what would happen?
Well, these are repairs to the existing drainage system for the schools. This had nothing to do with the field project, but obviously it's underneath the field project, so we had to get that done. As far as the cushion goes, we did have a 5% contingency put on the project, which we have used up, and we've typically had a $300,000 contingency. There was several other contingencies that came into this project. If you can imagine, on something the size of what we are doing back there, we didn't have an extra $100,000 to spend on fixing the school's drain pipes, nor was it part of our project. But it became part of it when it was necessary to get it done before we could put the fields on top of it. So that's why we're asking to have this funded now.
Any further discussion on the article? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Article 10 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The article carries. Article 11, see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to make application to the State Division of Conservation Services for a grant through the Parkland Acquisitions and Renovations for Communities Park Grant Program under 301 CMR 5 and accept a park grant that may be awarded to the town by the State Division of Conservation Services, and to raise and appropriate, transfer, or borrow the sum of $740,800 to defray 100% of all the project costs of renovating and redeveloping Jordan Park, contingent upon the award of a park grant to the town by the State Division of Conservation Services for reimbursement of up to 56% of all project costs, and to dedicate Jordan Park to park and recreation purposes under General Laws, Chapter 45, Section 3, or what action will take thereon. Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to authorize the Board of Selectmen to make application to the State Division of Conservation Services for a grant through the Parkland Acquisitions and Renovations for Communities Park Grant Program under 301 CMR 5.00 and accept a park grant that may be awarded to the town by the State Division of Conservation Services, and to raise and appropriate, transfer, or borrow the sum of $740,800 to defray 100% of all the project costs of renovating and redeveloping Jordan Park, contingent upon the award of a park grant to the town by the State Division of Conservation Services for reimbursement of up to 56% of all project costs, and to dedicate Jordan Park to park and recreation purposes for General Law, Chapter 45, Section 3, or what action it will take thereon.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen, and I'll waive the reading of the article unless there's an objection for the motion. Recommendation from the Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommends Article 11.
From the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee unanimously recommended Article 11. Just a little bit of color. If the article passes, we would be authorizing, we would need to appropriate the $740,800 in anticipation of receiving back up to almost $370,000 from the grant. So what we're doing here is authorizing that so that we're eligible, and should the grant come in, we're able to receive it.
Any further discussion? Mr. Crawford.
Yes, this is the procedure you have to follow through the state. to accept a park grant. The park grant, the official letters from the state have not come out yet. We don't expect to see them until the beginning of November. The town applied for this back in June. We expected and hoped to have those letters by today, but they haven't come in yet. You have to go through a town meeting to accept a park grant and approve designating the Jordan Park as a state park or a for recreational purposes. We purposely left Jordan Park off of the Park and Rec plan that we are doing at the high school because this is the only park in town that qualifies for the $400,000 state park grant. And so, although for the town of Lynnfield it may be a long shot, it's worth trying and saving the town that kind of money. We should know in a couple of weeks, and whether or not we get it, if we do, we'll move forward with the plans on the park. If we don't get it this year, I'd like to reapply next year and try again because it's just a basic. They have about $8 million a year for these park grants, and it all comes down to how many towns apply for the grant. And the less affluent inner city parks that get approved for these will get a preference over somebody like the town of Lynnfield. But if we hit a time where not that many other towns apply for these, we'd have a shot at getting it. So we should know very soon. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yep. Mr. Youngman.
Currently, Lynnfield Youth Soccer makes extensive use of Jordan Park. Will this change, or how will the soccer program be impacted by this?
Mr. Crawford?
Well, obviously, while we're renovating the park, it'll be shut down. But of course, this won't happen for 2 years. So this year we're doing the high school. Next year we're going to work on the middle school. And there's going to be plenty of new playing fields for those people using Jordan Park now. And as you can tell from what happened this summer, Jordan Park got the brunt of the use. And that's all going to start shifting over to the high school. And again, next year it'll be the middle school.
Mr. Youngman?
What I'm actually asking was, with the public or the government funding for this, or the matching grant, will there be restrictions on the soccer use of the field, or will other groups be allowed to use this, or will there be how will it affect the soccer program in that manner?
It shouldn't affect the soccer program as far as the usage. It does become a public park, which it is now, and it can be used, but we're assuming with all the other fields we're putting in place, it's going to have much less use anyways. And we're going to renovate it to a point where it's natural grass in a pristine condition, and we're not going to overuse it like it's been done in the past, and so the grass can stay the way it should.
Further discussion on the article? Mr. Gressius.
We're calling for a reimbursement up to 56%. What is the lower percentage?
The town of Lynnfield is eligible for 56%. There is no lower percentage. It would only be less than that if the amount of the grant or the project were less.
So we can take out the word up to.
Yeah, we probably should take out the word up to, because it's the size of the project and the amount of the grant that we applied for would give us 56%.
Is it in order for me to make that motion?
Probably not. But somebody else can. Is there any further discussion? Mrs. Campbell.
I make a motion to remove the words up to.
I make a motion to remove the words up to before the 56%.
Is there a second
We're assured
motion?
that it would be, okay.
Mr. Dreschio seconds the motion.
May I speak to it?
You certainly can.
It's clear that we're going to get 56%, so we will, if we remove up to, the uncertainty in the motion is obliterated. Thank you, Mr. Dreschio, for that suggestion.
Mr. Mullin.
Can I just suggest you may want to replace up to with at least? What if it were 57%?
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. So
So I'll make that change to at least. Is there any further discussion on that motion? So the motion on the floor is to change up to at least. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it, the motion carries. We'll go back to Article 11. Is there any further discussion on Article 11? Mr. Priestley.
Move the question.
It's been moved and seconded to proceed to a vote on Article 11. This vote is on whether or not to proceed to a vote on Article 11. If you'd like to proceed to that vote, vote yes. So all those in favor of moving the question signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Article 11. We will see if the town will accept the park grant. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Moving on to Article 12. Article 12 to see if the town will vote to amend Section 9.5.6 of the zoning bylaws, Planned Village Development District, prohibited uses or activities, by adding to the end thereof Section 15, adult uses as defined in Section 8.5.2, adult uses definitions, and 16, medical marijuana facilities as defined in Section 8.7.3, medical marijuana definitions, or what action will take thereon. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to amend Section 9.5.6 of the zoning bylaws, Planned Village Development District, PVDD, prohibited uses or activities by adding to the end thereof 15 adult uses as defined in Section 8.5.2 adult use definitions, and 16 medical marijuana facilities as defined Section 8.7.3 medical marijuana definitions.
It's moved and seconded the town vote to amend Section 9.5.6 of the zoning bylaws. I'm looking for recommendations from the Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen recommend Article 12.
Finance Committee, Mr. Dahlstedt?
As do the Finance Committee unanimously.
Any further discussion on the article? Would somebody like to explain the article? Planning Board? Absolutely. Sorry. It's getting late.
The Planning Board recommends this article.
Any further discussion on the article? In the middle, yes, ma'am.
Heather Keene, Canterbury Road, 23. Can you just explain PVDD? Does that include all of Lynnfield, just this one area? We're concerned about the Canterbury Road area.
Mr. Gustus.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This article is to clear up a provision that appears in the 40R zoning district, which is the Market Street area. In that zoning construct, the bylaw that was passed to address all of the zoning issues related to Market Street, there is a provision that says that only the provisions in that 9.5 of the zoning bylaw shall apply to that area, and no provision of the rest of the zoning bylaw. Now, there are separate provisions of the rest of the zoning bylaw that prohibit or restrict where adult uses may go and where medical, not only where medical marijuana facilities could go, but how they will be regulated. Those would not apply to the PVDD district or the Market Street area without adding them to the list of prohibited uses in that zoning bylaw itself. So that's what this is doing, is adding it in that area. I think there's another article that's coming up right after this that will address the issue that you are likely concerned about.
Any further discussion on the article? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Article 12 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. It's unanimous. The article passes. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws as follows. Section 8, special permits. Section 8.5, adult uses. 8.5.3.2, location, by adding before the existing paragraph a separate paragraph. An adult use may be located only within the commercial district within the town or what action will take thereon. Mr. Faria.
Move to amend the zoning bylaws as follows. Section 8, special permits. Section 8.5, adult uses. 8.5.3.2, location, by adding before the existing paragraph a separate paragraph. An adult use may be located only within the commercial district within the town. Thank you.
We're going to start, Mr. Faria, you can speak to the motion.
Yes, I will.
It's been moved and seconded to see if, to have the town vote to amend the zoning bylaws as shown in your handout. Mr. Faria.
If you do not want adult uses at Market Street, you want to vote in favor of this amendment to the zoning bylaw. Over the years, there have been some piecemeal changes to the zoning bylaws adopted by town meeting. There are some holes from different areas. We're in the process of taking care of those. The planning board will be reviewing for other discrepancies in the zoning bylaw within the next year, and we will probably come back to town meeting in the spring with further changes. But if you do not want adult uses on Market Street, you vote for this. It's that simple.
Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Lauren West, Canterbury Road. Does this mean any commercial district in Lynnfield, or is there a specific commercial district in which adult uses are currently allowed?
Right now, there is only one district where adult uses are allowed, and that is down behind Eastern Bank on Salem Street. That is the only commercial district where adult uses of medical marijuana are permitted.
That's the Eastern Bank at Kimball Lane.
At Kimball Lane, yes, the Kimball Lane area.
Okay, so this, voting yes for this would not allow it anywhere on the Route 1 strip?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the article? Share hand up. Yep, go ahead.
Janice Bell, 24 Canterbury. Could it be broadened to obviously include that we don't end up with it on Route 1? And that's obviously what we're getting at.
We have examined that, and when you take a look at the way that it was worded in the last amendment that we made at the prior town meeting, we did it in such a manner that it would not be allowed within Route 1. That is our intent.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the article? If not, we'll proceed to a vote on Article 13. That the town vote to amend the zoning bylaws by adding Section 8 special permits, Section 8.5 adult uses, 8.5.3.2 location. Requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. To see if the town will vote to Article 14, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws as follows. Delete Section 11.2, delete Section 9.4, and add a new Section 8. as printed in the handout. It's pretty lengthy, and I'm not going to read the whole thing in the interest of getting out of here today. But, Mr. Farrer.
That is going to be discussed by Mr. Dreyfus.
Step right up, make your motion.
Move Article 14 as printed in the warrant.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 14 as printed in the warrant. Discussion, Mr. Dressios.
Proposing a new wireless district. Changes that start off are in the definitions. There's a few of things added there. The most important thing in the definitions, if you take a look at, is called the PWSF, which is called Personal Wireless Service Facility. The key thing about a personal wireless service facility is that it includes all the parts of that facility, consisting of equipment, structures, material, cable, electronic subassemblies, antennas, and customer-side utility interfaces used by an individual provider of personal wireless services on the site. You have to forgive me a little bit that we've created new alphabet soup here, but that's the cost of doing business. The bylaw itself, under citing a radio telecommunications facility, contains a preface to the whole bylaw. That serves to inform the public as to the limitations the town has in enforcing applications for wireless communications. The bylaw establishes preference types. There are 3 levels of preference types. You can look at the handout that was at the front door. Also, I'd like to mention there's a consultant review fee to aid the town in reviewing an application by their expert. There's also a bond required for the removal of the facility when the operation ends. We also made some changes to the site plan and required an additional section of the site plan called visual guidelines. This is such things for concealment, screening, camouflage, landscaping, scale, color, signs, lighting, maintenance, parking, and prohibitions. Lastly, we deleted sections in 11.2, existing buildings number 3, and said it's no longer needed because a new section is a town-wide special permit process. I'm happy to take any questions, but there's a lot of stuff there.
Any discussion on this article? Yes, sir. Alan, hang on.
Paul Briggs, Candlewood Road. I thought I heard you say at the outset of your comments that we were going to create a wireless communications district, which I thought had already been done. This says we're deleting the wireless communications district, section 9.4, and I just want to know if under the TCA, if the language in section 8.7.4.1 saying that all districts, it's applicable to all zoning districts throughout the town, means these things can go anywhere. So we no longer have a wireless district?
Mr. Dressios.
The concept of a wireless district that we presently have does limit where you can have these districts, but unfortunately, you can't limit where you have these districts. That's against the federal law. If a provider is missing an area of communications, a coverage area is commonly referred to, then they can come in and apply for a permit. If we say, and our bylaw actually has a fault in it right now, that we don't allow it in that district, they just go to Boston by the telecommunications board and get their permit, which means we're out of the loop completely, We can't ask for camouflage, we can't ask for contracts. There's a lot of things we can't do because the state takes control of it at that point. So yes, we're eliminating the old bylaw, and we're putting this new one in, which runs town-wide. One other thing I'd like to quickly say is that this bylaw is a copy of the Westport bylaw, which has already been approved by the AG's office. So we're in pretty good shape with the language that's in here now.
Any further questions on Article 14? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Article 14 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. It's unanimous. Article 15, see if the town will vote to accept as a public way as laid out and reported to the by the Board of Selectmen, Pizzuti Way, as shown on a plan entitled Street Acceptance Plan, Pizzuti Way, Lynnfield, Mass., by Hayes Engineering, dated December 10th, 2012, a copy of which plan is on file at the office of the town clerk and available for inspection, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain such interest in land as may be necessary or appropriate to create such public way, or what action it will take thereon. Mr. Terranova.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to accept as a public way, as laid out and reported by the Board of Selectmen, Pizzuti Way, as shown on plan entitled Street Acceptance Plan, Pizzuti Way, Lynnfield, Mass., by Hayes Engineering, Inc., dated December 10th, 2012, a copy of which plan is on file at the office of the town clerk and available for inspection, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain such interest in land as may be necessary or appropriate to create such a public way.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept as a public way Pizzuti Way. Any further discussion? Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommends Article 15.
Finance Committee?
As do the Finance Committee.
Planning Board?
The planning board recommends Article 15 as well.
Is there any further discussion on the article? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of Article 15 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to amend Chapter 5, Regulations Governing Persons and Property, Section 23, Regulations of Solicitors and Canvassers of the General Bylaws of the Town of Lynnfield as follows. I'll waive the reading of Article 16 and turn to Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to amend the general bylaws of the town by amending Chapter 5, which is the regulations governing persons and property, Section 23, regulations of solicitors, canvassers, as follows. Again, we'll waive the reading. Thank you.
As printed?
As printed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend Chapter 5 as printed in the handout. Any further discussion? Recommendations from the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommend Article 16.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee recommends Article 16.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Campbell?
Does this permit, or does anything else existing permit a charity from canvassing for donations at Route 1 in Salem Street many times a year? Because I do observe one in particular there many times a year.
Mr. Muller?
Yeah, this bylaw specifically exempts persons canvassing for political, religious, and philanthropic purposes. So those people would not be prohibited at all from canvassing. That was put in specifically to avoid any constitutional infirmity on advice of the Attorney General.
So they may canvass repeatedly in 1 year?
Yes.
Okay. And one other question. I have a concern about our school children standing on the island and in the street at Post Office Square between the fire station and the gas station? Are the children allowed to do that, to stand in the street and on the island, distracting drivers as they go
Is this
by?
pertinent to this article? Is it, I'm not understanding.
Is this addressed at all in this article? Because the schools are mentioned and not prohibited from canvassing, but is there anything to prevent them from standing in the street?
No one has the right to stand in the traveled path of the way. And it's the police who enforce that. Anyone of any age who stands there will be asked to leave, and if they refuse, the police will take them out.
Thank you. It's long concerned me that continues to go on.
Any further discussion on Article 16? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Article 16 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Article 16 passes. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws of the town of Lynnfield by deleting existing section 17A of chapter 5 thereof and adding a new section 17 as printed in your handout. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town amend the general bylaws by deleting existing section 17A of chapter 5 thereof and adding a new section 17A as it appears in the October 20th, 2014 special town meeting warrant, accepting only that the final paragraph thereof shall read as follows. Any owner or keeper of a dog or kennel who shall fail to comply with the provisions of this section by March 1st in any year shall be subject to a penalty of $50 per dog or kennel.
Second. Second that as well.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the general bylaws of the town of Lynnfield by deleting existing section 17A of chapter 5 and adding a new section 17A as it appears in the October 20th, 2014 special warrant. I want to point out that he changed the dollar amount in the very last line from $25 to $50 as part of that motion. Any further discussion on the article? Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen recommend Article 17.
Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends Article 17 as well.
Any further discussion on the item? Mrs. Randall?
Kathy Randall, 55 Carter Road. My question is, what if an individual owns 5 dogs? Does this fall under the personal kennel?
Mr. Muller? Mr. Gustus, I'll give you that.
I think that this article is addressing only the fees that are charged for various types of facilities. And in answer to your question, speaking to the town clerk about this, and I think it is true for all kinds of kennels, when it's a personal situation where an owner has 4 dogs, say, we have the option of either charging them the kennel fee, which would be $100, or the per individual dog licensing fee, whatever that might be. It's not usually an issue with under 4 dogs, and if a resident has more than 4 dogs, I think there are other requirements they have to go through in the way of special permits and the like, because I don't think they're allowed as a matter of right in a residential zone. But this does not try to address those issues. Whatever's in those bylaws continues to be there. This just deals with the fees and the fines, which were upgraded and updated by the Commonwealth. And that's what this is trying to do, just make our bylaw consistent with what state law says relative to fees and fines.
Any further questions? Up in the back section.
Melanie Lovell, 68 Fork Road.
Please hold the microphone a little closer to your mouth, thank you.
Melanie Lovell, 68 Fork Road. Just a quick question. What is the licensing fee for an unneutered male dog? I didn't see that in the bylaw.
$10. Woman in the front row, still have a question? Any further questions, discussion on this article? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote on Article 17. To amend the general bylaws of the town of Lynnfield by deleting existing section 17A of chapter 5 thereof and adding a new section 17A as it appears in the special town meeting warrant. All those in favor of the article signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to amend, to see if the town will amend its bylaws to add the following scenic road bylaw as printed in the handout. Ms. Bandini.
Allison McHenry from Rose Street. I move to indefinitely postpone this article.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to indefinitely postpone Article 18. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Mr. Nelson.
I move that this town meeting be adjourned, signed by die.
Second that?
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much for your patience. Tellers, please return your counters to the front up here for me, please. Thank you very much.